The Old Republic era has some of the strongest Jedi, greatest Sith, and most interesting stories in Star Wars. From the Knights of the Old Republic games to the Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, this era has given fans an opportunity to play as the Jedi and Sith of old, while learning more about the history of the galaxy and all of its really interesting beings. Just being able to see ancient species like the Sith and walk around planets like Alderaan is awesome, which is why I'm shocked that LEGO has all but forgotten about this era with the lack of sets and minifigures. Outside of the 25th anniversary Darth Malak minifig, there hasn't been an Old Republic minifig or set in over a decade, which of course has caused the resale price for these old sets and minifigs to absolutely skyrocket. What's even crazier is when you consider that they are still updating the Old Republic MMO, announced a remastered version of Knights of the Old Republic, and even gave Revan a brief appearance in the Rebuild the Galaxy series, so LEGO has a ton of reasons to release Old Republic sets or minifigs, but we still have none. Essentially, I'm tired of waiting for LEGO to release new minifigs or sets of this era of Star Wars, so I decided to build my own with some of the best custom minifigs available. Which is why today I'll be making 3 LEGO builds, all based in the Old Republic era of Star Wars. So with that being said, sit back and relax, maybe grab yourself some finely aged Weequay whiskey, and enjoy as I make 3 Star Wars Old Republic builds in LEGO. Now, you simply cannot talk about the Old Republic era without mentioning Knights of the Old Republic and Darth Revan. The love that Revan received after the first KOTOR game really inspired Star Wars to dive deeper into this era, which means we likely wouldn't have received amazing games like KOTOR 2 or Star Wars The Old Republic if Revan wasn't such an interesting and influential character. And Revan has influence well beyond these games, because Star Wars legends say that his knowledge was eventually passed all the way down to Darth Bane, and is even said to have been a large inspiration in the Rule of Two. So I decided to build a small Sith shrine where Revan is putting his lessons into a Sith holocron as his apprentice Darth Malak watches. I've probably built Malak and Revan fighting a million times at this point, so I wanted to switch things up a little bit and create a moment of peace between the Sith Lords, which is why I went with this build of a simple Sith altar and shrine. The altar is holding the holocron, while the black spires surrounding the build just felt like something that belonged in an ancient Sith temple. For the minifigs, I decided to go with my Firestar Toys Revan instead of my American Bricks minifigs, mainly just because I love these tattered robe pieces on him. And for Malak, I went with the official 25th anniversary minifig that LEGO recently released. Like I mentioned earlier, legends say that Bane found inspiration for the Rule of Two while learning from Revan's holocron, so this artifact could honestly be one of the most influential artifacts in Star Wars. But I think this first build was a nice starting look into the Old Republic era. Like I said, you simply can't talk about this era without mentioning Knights of the Old Republic and these 2 characters specifically. They had one of the most interesting hero-villain dynamics out of any Star Wars game and maybe even movie, and created a lasting legacy that fans today obviously still enjoy. Moving on to the second build, I decided to recreate the iconic Battle of Alderaan that we see in one of the first cinematic trailers for Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO. This trailer made kids everywhere, including myself, beg their parents for time on the computer just so they could see what this game was all about, while also introducing us to characters like Jace Malcolm and continuing the battle between Jedi and Sith. The Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic trailers are just that. They are pure cinema. They are amazing, and I highly recommend you watch them if you haven't. I wanted this build to be in the forest just like the trailer on Alderaan, so I started by making a dirt pathway while building up some green space in the background. In the trailer, the battle takes place in a dense Alderaanian forest, so I wanted to add as many different plant pieces and tree life around the build as possible. Since Alderaan is a naturally beautiful planet, I gave the grass pieces some color just to add a little bit more of it into the build. I also included this fallen tree in the middle for my Republic forces to use for cover, similar to the trailer, because you know I like to add a little detail when I can. But after the build was all but finished, I just had to add my minifigs. I started with my custom Sith War Droid that I've used in the past. I absolutely love this build, and if you want to see how to make it, you can check out my short that's linked in the description. After that, I added a Republic Commando and my Jace Malcolm minifigs that I picked up from Jay's Little Things and put them behind the cover that I mentioned earlier, that stump. During the battles of the Old Republic, it would be common to see Sith and Jedi fighting all over the battlefield, making life almost miserable for these Republic commandos, but Jace Malcolm has to be one of the most interesting Republic commandos ever, and I highly recommend you check out his lore. Then I added a Sith acolyte eating a laser from Jace's cannon, also from Jay's Little Things, and finally completed the build by adding a fight scene between Malgus and Satele directly in the middle of the build. This is actually the second time we see Malgus and Satele fighting in these cinematic trailers, with the first battle leading to the deaths of both of their masters. This Malgus is a really nice custom from Jonak Toys. The only difference is that I removed his breathing chest piece armor and swapped it out since he didn't technically have it at this moment. But his face was definitely still f***ed after multiple point blank explosions from Jace Malcolm. So I kept his original face piece and added him to the build. This Satele Shan came with the rest of my Old Republic forces from Jay's Little Things, but I honestly love this replica and think she fits perfectly with my Malgus. Lego, I hope you're taking notes. I am super happy to be able to build this scene in Lego, but now that I have, it's time to move on to the third and final build. The Sith Triumvirate were some of the most interesting Sith in all of Star Wars. They were a powerful group of Sith Lords from Knights of the Old Republic 2 that nearly destroyed the Jedi Order. You had Darth Sion, a Sith Lord who refused to die no matter what you did to him. Darth Traya, a master manipulator who influenced and deceived people all across the galaxy. And finally, Darth Nihilus, a dude who would suck the life from an entire planet just to feed his hunger.
What?
And for this final build, I was wondering how could I possibly fit all three of these Sith Lords into one build? Because by the time the second Knights of the Old Republic game starts, the Sith Triumvirate fall into the common Sith trap and deceive each other, leading to the band breaking up.
You did it again, James. You pushed away the one guy who actually gave a damn about you.
So I decided to get a little creative and actually build a boss fight from the Star Wars mobile game Galaxy of Heroes, where the final boss is the Sith Triumvirate. I didn't want to make my build identical to the scene in the raid, but just take inspiration from this scene and incorporate it into my build. Plus, for the first time in a long time on this channel, I'm testing out a new light kit that I found on Amazon, so I'm really excited to see how this third and final build turns out. The goal here is to make sure that no wires are exposed or needlessly placed over with, Lego plate and brick. This is actually a JMB Bricklayer LED light kit, and honestly, I'm really happy with how it's worked so far. What's nice about these lights is that you can actually build over the wires without affecting them, which is a big plus, and they're incredibly bright as you can see. This is not a sponsored video in any way either, I'm just testing out different light kits for future builds. But honestly, I think they worked perfectly for the floor design I was trying to create, and I'm really happy with how they look in their first build. So after finishing up the floor, I decided to build a small Sith shrine behind the Triumvirate to hide the power box. So I went ahead and created an area for the shrine to sit in the center of the build and built a rock wall kind of just leading up to it. And I wanted to practice my rock work a lot, so I went ahead and added even more to the shrine just so I could feel happy with the finished product. By the end of the rock work, I realized I gave the power box more room than I really needed to, so lesson learned in the future, but all that was left to do was to add those minifigs. This is the Sith Triumvirate from Firestar Toys, and I cannot recommend them enough. For all my UK viewers out there, this is the vendor that I will always recommend because they continue to create awesome customs like these. Once I added them to the build, I had to see what it looked like in the dark. So I shut off all the studio lights and I couldn't be more happy with how it looks. I think the piercing red color coming through the ground is awesome, and it creates really cool shadows on the back of the Sith Lords, which I just love. The Sith Triumvirate are already a scary trio, but including lights in the build just makes it so much better and just gives it a little edge. But as always, I'm curious to hear what you think. Which of today's builds is your favorite? There are so many interesting characters and stories from this era, so I feel like I could do this video over and over again with all the content that's available from the Old Republic era. So if you want to see more of these builds and videos in the future, leave your ideas in the comments. But if you like this video, then YouTube thinks you'll like this video here. Or if you're looking for something fun, I recommend you check out my Star Wars Zombies video I did here. But as always, thanks for swinging by the cantina today. I wish you safe travels, and I'll see you in the next one.